In a bold and strategic move that's already generating buzz across the aerospace and political spectrum, former President Donald Trump's proposed fiscal year 2026 budget has sent a powerful signal. America is going back to space with more ambition than ever before. Titled Revitalizing American Greatness in Space, the FY26 budget outlines a significant investment into human space exploration, promising to reinvigorate NASA, deepen partnerships with private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin, and accelerate plans to return American astronauts to the Moon and eventually to Mars. Standing at the center of this ambitious budget is a renewed commitment to space leadership, something Trump has long touted as a cornerstone of national pride and technological dominance. With $31.2 billion earmarked for NASA, an increase of nearly 15% compared to the previous fiscal year, the message is clear: the U.S. will not be outpaced in the final frontier. This isn't just about exploration. It's about economics, defense, innovation, and inspiring the next generation of Americans to look up and reach for the stars. One of the headline initiatives in this budget is the Artemis program. Originally launched under previous administrations, Artemis aims to land the first woman and the next man on the Moon by the late 2020s. Trump's FY26 plan accelerates that timeline by increasing funding for lunar lander development, supporting deep space infrastructure, and greenlighting advanced crewed missions to test long-duration space travel. This move repositions the Moon not just as a symbolic target, but as a critical proving ground for the technologies and human endurance needed to make Mars exploration viable. In addition to lunar efforts, the budget allocates substantial resources, approximately $4.7 billion, for Mars-related missions. These include robotic missions to pave the way, Mars habitat research, life support system development, and propulsion technologies that will be vital for the long journey to the Red Planet. This emphasis signals a shift from vague, long-term aspirations to actionable steps that could lead to a crewed Mars mission within the next 2 decades. Space technology development is another area receiving a boost. The FY26 budget sets aside nearly $3.2 billion for research and development in propulsion systems, space communication networks, AI-guided navigation, and in-space manufacturing. These are not just add-ons, they're the backbone of the kind of robust, sustainable presence in space that will be required for humans to live and work beyond Earth. The aim here is self-sufficiency. Astronauts able to repair their own systems, generate fuel from lunar resources, and communicate in real time with Earth and each other. Private industry also plays a starring role in Trump's plan. The budget strongly encourages collaboration with companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Boeing, framing them not merely as contractors but as co-pioneers. Funding incentives are being proposed for commercial lunar landers, orbital habitats, and cargo systems, ensuring that the economic ecosystem around space remains dynamic and competitive. This is the continuation of a trend Trump embraced during his presidency, leaning into the power of public-private partnerships to speed up innovation and reduce costs. Public reaction to the budget has been divided along predictable lines. Supporters praise the vision, calling it a bold reassertion of American leadership in space, especially after years of uncertainty and shifting priorities. Critics argue that the funds could be better spent on domestic needs and warn against over-reliance on private firms. But one thing is undeniable: this budget has reignited a national conversation about space that had, in some ways, begun to fade after the excitement of the 2010s. Politically, this proposal is also a statement. With the FY26 budget, Trump isn't just funding rockets, he's planting a flag. It's an attempt to draw a clear contrast with previous administrations, particularly those that scaled back crewed missions or deferred deep space goals due to budget constraints. This is classic Trump branding: go big, make headlines, and rally a base around American strength and ingenuity. The difference now is that space exploration is no longer just a dream, it's a functioning industry with real stakes. Space Force, the newest branch of the U.S. military established during Trump's presidency, also sees expanded funding and integration with NASA efforts. While some of its budget remains classified, what's clear is that space is no longer viewed purely through a scientific lens. It's a domain of strategic importance. Satellites, surveillance, early warning systems, and secure communications are all part of a larger framework in which civilian and defense operations must coexist and cooperate. And then there's Elon Musk. Trump's FY26 budget specifically highlights the achievements of private innovators, with a nod to SpaceX's recent Starship developments. There are new provisions for streamlining FAA licensing for commercial launches, reducing regulatory bottlenecks, and creating fast-track grants for breakthrough aerospace concepts. It's a nod to the move fast and break things ethos that Silicon Valley brought to tech, and which is now being applied to outer space. For Musk and others in the private sector, this budget could be a game changer. It means faster timelines, deeper government collaboration, and a more open playing field. For the public, it means more launches, more milestones, and a front-row seat to history. The days of watching the same few agencies control every aspect of space exploration are over. This is a new era. Messier, faster, riskier, but arguably more exciting. But excitement must be tempered with caution. There are still significant challenges to overcome. International cooperation must be balanced with national interests. Space debris remains a growing threat. And while billionaires are pushing the envelope, the need for strong oversight and ethical frameworks has never been greater. Trump's FY26 budget doesn't ignore these issues. It sets aside funding for regulatory bodies and even proposes new legislation to define space traffic management and private sector liability. Still, the tone is unmistakably aggressive. This is not a cautious, wait-and-see approach. It's a declaration: America will lead, and it will lead now. Whether that vision can survive Congress, the complexities of implementation, and the test of time is yet to be seen. But as of now, the path has been laid, and it leads straight to the stars. While the FY26 budget clearly highlights President Trump's commitment to returning humans to the moon and eventually setting foot on Mars, it also addresses an equally important aspect of space exploration. Infrastructure. This isn't just about rockets and astronauts. It's about building the groundwork for a long-term presence beyond Earth. One of the major allocations in the budget is aimed at upgrading launch facilities, improving deep space communication networks, and developing lunar surface habitats. NASA, in collaboration with private companies, will begin construction of semi-permanent living modules that can support astronauts during extended missions on the moon. This initiative isn't just a symbolic gesture to mark America's return to the lunar surface. It's a strategic move to develop sustainable systems. That includes everything from solar-powered energy stations to advanced life support and radiation shielding. Think of it as setting up a base camp before scaling the highest mountain. President Trump's FY26 budget ensures that the U.S. isn't just visiting space, we're preparing to live and work there. These investments also lay the foundation for Mars missions, where the stakes and distances are far greater. Another crucial component of the budget is the renewed focus on STEM education and workforce development. A nation cannot lead in space exploration without a robust pipeline of skilled scientists, engineers, and innovators. Recognizing this, the FY26 budget proposes expanded funding for NASA's STEM engagement programs. This includes scholarships, grants for universities, and partnerships with community colleges to train the next generation of aerospace professionals. President Trump has emphasized that America's youth must be inspired again, just as a generation once looked up during the Apollo era. In fact, this educational push has a twofold purpose. First, it encourages students to pursue careers in aerospace, robotics, and planetary science. Second, it builds a strong domestic talent base to reduce reliance on foreign expertise. The space race of the 21st century will be won not just in orbit, but in classrooms, laboratories, and training centers across the country. The Trump administration clearly sees education as a national security asset, and space as the ultimate testing ground of innovation. Now, one of the more ambitious and technically challenging aspects of the FY26 plan involves the Lunar Gateway, a space station that will orbit the moon and serve as a staging area for deep space missions. The Gateway will act as a transportation hub, laboratory, and crew transfer station. Unlike the International Space Station, which orbits Earth, the Lunar Gateway will be positioned in a highly elliptical orbit around the moon, allowing for regular crew rotations and resupply missions. The FY26 budget earmarks increased funding to fast-track the Gateway's development with the goal of having operational modules in space by the late 2020s. This orbital outpost will be crucial not only for moon missions but also for expeditions to Mars. It provides a midway point for spacecraft, reduces the need for direct launches from Earth, and allows astronauts to train and adapt to long-duration missions. Trump's vision, supported by his FY26 budget, places the Gateway at the center of America's cislunar and interplanetary architecture. It's a vision rooted in practicality, but also one that echoes the grand ambitions of the space age, only now with more advanced technology and private sector collaboration. Speaking of collaboration, the FY26 budget takes a strong stance on public-private partnerships. While NASA remains the central authority on space exploration, The Trump administration is clear in its belief that government alone cannot bear the entire cost or innovation burden. That's why companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Boeing are being brought into the fold in a bigger way than ever before. Trump's budget allocates resources to competitive contracts and milestone-based funding, ensuring that private companies have both the incentive and the accountability to deliver results. In this new model, government sets the destination, but private industry helps build the spacecraft, the landers, and even the habitats. SpaceX's Starship is already being considered for cargo and crew transport to the moon, while other companies are working on robotic rovers, communication relays, and surface construction tools. The FY26 budget streamlines these partnerships, reducing red tape and encouraging faster innovation cycles. It's a blend of capitalism and patriotism, using the strengths of both to achieve a common celestial goal. Now let's address a critical point: the geopolitical implications of this budget. Space is not just a scientific frontier. It's increasingly becoming a domain of national competition. China's lunar ambitions are growing rapidly. Russia continues to invest in its own space infrastructure. Other nations, too, are forming alliances to stake their claims in orbit and beyond. By investing heavily in human space exploration, the FY26 budget is making a statement. America will not cede leadership in space. Trump has always viewed dominance in space as a matter of national security. That's one reason why his administration created the U.S. Space Force in the first place. With the FY26 budget, this doctrine is being extended to civilian exploration as well. America's ability to lead in space will influence its diplomatic leverage, technological edge, and defense capabilities. The message is loud and clear. If humans are going back to the moon and then to Mars, they'll be doing it with an American flag on their shoulder. The budget also includes plans to invest in planetary defense, an area that often gets overlooked but is increasingly important. This includes funding for near-Earth object detection systems, asteroid tracking satellites, and potential mitigation technologies. After all, history has shown that asteroid impacts can cause catastrophic damage. The FY26 budget supports proactive measures to monitor threats and develop technologies that can deflect or destroy hazardous objects long before they reach Earth. This isn't just science fiction, it's a responsible strategy for long-term survival. Another fascinating piece of the FY26 plan is its focus on in-situ resource utilization, ISRU. This means using resources already present on the Moon or Mars to support missions. For instance, extracting water ice from the lunar poles can provide drinking water or be converted into rocket fuel. ISRU reduces the need to carry everything from Earth, making missions lighter and more cost-effective. Trump's budget invests in technologies like robotic mining systems, autonomous construction bots, and material processing units to begin testing ISRU capabilities on the Moon within the next decade. As part of this effort, new missions will be funded to scout resource-rich areas on the lunar surface. Data collected from these missions will guide where bases are built and what technologies are deployed. This is a huge step towards self-sufficiency in space, and it positions the U.S. to dominate not only exploration but also the future space economy. Now, let's turn to public engagement, an often underrated but crucial element of any successful space program. The Trump FY26 budget doesn't just focus on engineers and astronauts. It speaks to the American people. Funding is reserved for outreach campaigns, live mission broadcasts, educational content, and even virtual reality experiences that bring space into classrooms and living rooms. The idea is to make space exciting again. Just as the Apollo missions once united the nation in awe and wonder, these new missions aim to reignite that same spirit. It's about national pride, yes, but it's also about inspiration. When people see rockets launching, astronauts walking on new worlds, and American technology leading the way, it instills a sense of possibility. It sends a message that the future is still bright, that the stars are still within reach, and that our best days are not behind us, but ahead. So what does this all mean for the average citizen? Why should the everyday American care about a space budget that runs into the billions? The answer is simple: because space exploration drives innovation that impacts daily life. GPS, weather forecasting, telecommunications, medical imaging, all have roots in space technology. The Trump FY26 budget will not only push boundaries in orbit but create thousands of high-tech jobs, stimulate the economy, and foster technological breakthroughs that trickle down into every industry. And let's not forget the broader philosophical question: what kind of species do we want to be? One that is bound to a single planet, vulnerable to disaster, or one that spreads across the solar system, learning, thriving, and enduring? The Trump administration's FY26 budget answers that question with boldness. It says we are not just caretakers of Earth but explorers of the cosmos. In conclusion, President Trump's FY26 budget represents more than just numbers on a page. It's a roadmap. A roadmap to the moon, to Mars, and to a future where America leads not just in economy or military might, but in human achievement. From infrastructure and education to innovation and national security, every element is designed to reignite the spirit of exploration. It's a return to ambition. A declaration that the stars are not beyond our reach. And a promise that the next giant leap will be taken by the red, white, and blue. As the engines of innovation fire up once more and countdowns echo through mission control rooms across the nation, one thing is clear: America is back on the launch pad. And this time we're going farther than ever before.